Hello, welcome. My name is Rue. I'm here to bring the truth to you. That beautiful, ugly truth. It may be subjective, but it is all dependent on your perspective and how you interpret reality is based off of your thoughts and perceptions. And idealism is the most poignant tool slash weapon that there is in the modern era. This era that we know is numbered as the 21st century. Now, I kind of wanted to give a little bit more of an introduction to, uh, I guess it would be my thesis on uh, this generation slash my podcast slash my intention. It's something that I've been analyzing for quite some time now. And it's not really easy to identify one's own motives and to be self-aware and cognizant these days is a task in and of itself. But what I found was symbols and signs, and what my intention for this podcast slash movement is that a collective unites, but not under any particular banner of nation, state, religion, or ideology. But with that being said, this is just an idea in and of itself. So, what that would be is an ideology. But the symbol of Pluto is very potent. The symbol of death. And something that people are afraid of, intensely in fear of, is aging and death and suffering. And it is part of life. And it is nothing to be afraid of. And I realized that my new slash old and unrealized goal for this podcast is to heal with my words and to soothe souls and try to shepherd them in the right direction. Now, a lot of people are throwing out the term sheep. People are behaving like sheep and have this herd or pack mentality. Now, my counter argument to that is well, if we have so many sheep following the herd, then where are the shepherds? Where are the leaders? And I would like to propose some ideas to give you the tools and knowledge, wisdom, information, guidance, whatever you want to call it, to become more of a leader, more of a shepherd, more of a chief, not an Indian, more of a shepherd, not a sheep, or even a wolf, if you will, but a lone wolf, if that makes sense. But the other thing, pardon the cat, the other thing about being a lone wolf is that it's harder to survive without the pack. And that is where people really struggle, is because we are social creatures and that we do need connection. We do need fidelity, fealty. We need these very instrumental things to survive and thrive. We are social creatures. We're not a reptile or a amphibian or a cold-blooded being that can survive on its own off of sheer willpower. We need to work in a group. And the saddest thing that I see these days is people collectivized and then separated amongst these lines that we draw in the sand, whether it's Democrat or Republican or gay or straight or black or white. So my goal is to try and unite and uplift and heal with my words rather than divide and conquer, to fragment the mind or the ego or the soul, to do the opposite of that. And it's not an easy thing to do, because in order to do that, you must be cognizant and aware of your own ego. And tonight I come to you to ask you, what is your purpose for existing? What is the purpose for existing? What is the purpose of life? We've had many answers to that question. It's a question as old as life itself, theoretically. And that's what ontology is the study of being. It's the study of isness or suchness. It's the study of beingness. It's what we are. We are a being, individually and collectively, because if you look at the human species or the human race, we are one organism. And you can clearly see that we work together towards a common goal. Unfortunately, these common goals are not understood by the lay folk. These goals, shout out to Stephen, by the way, my number one fan over on Facebook. He's watching live right now. Appreciate the support, brother. Pardon me. Now, a lot of people don't realize that they're being pushed into a direction. I myself don't realize what direction I'm being pushed in, and that isn't because I don't have cognizance of my ego, which is the subjective mind. The ego was developed in theory, this is my theory, to survive in the wild. You got to have ego, right? So the problem with ego, and this is something that many people have broken down and defined, but the ego is a mechanical phenomenon. which means it reacts mechanically in order to preserve its territory, in order to protect itself. That way it can survive. So the ego is a very mechanistic and animistic phenomenon or happening or thing, right? The ego really is a thing because what you do, what not what you do, but what I do, what we tend to do is we identify with things. We think and believe that we are this body. We think and believe that we are this mind. And then what's even more is we think and believe that we are this personality. We say, this is who I am. This is what I am. I am just this way. These are my preferences. I do not like beer. I do not like staying up late on the weekends. I do not like being lied to. I do not like being hurt. I do not like being mistreated. These are all things that help preserve our life. So the ego is necessary to a degree, but now we've come to a point in the human species where the ego is overinflated, where it is become obtuse or out of balance with the construct or the collective of what we live in. So my theory is that the collective consciousness is trying to rise above the collective ego. And that's why everyone has these feelings. Not everyone, but a lot of people that are, a little bit introverted or introspective, or like to think about things. I feel like these people are at an unrest. I'm mostly describing myself, but my point is that I feel like something isn't right. And I feel like it's the collective ego. I feel like the collective ego is becoming so large. It's like an overgrown tick, a big fat parasite. And the problem with the ego is, and identification and what we believe we are is that the ego wants to be comfortable and secure, right? It's all about security, it's all about survival. But this is a pretty complex concept here, but bear with me. We become identified with sensory perceptions, and we become addicted to sensory input. So we become addicted to pleasure, and we become extremely advertent to pain. It is very difficult for someone that has been seeking pleasure and avoiding pain to face themselves. And it's a positive feedback loop, and it feeds back into itself and it reinforces itself. And these are what the neuroscientists, the neurologists have come to label as neural pathways. These are the behavior mechanisms that are lined out in our brains. To make it simple, it's a path. If you have the same thought and you enact the same behavior, then you're reinforcing that path. You're beating down that path with your actions. You're walking down that path again. So it's what happens when you walk down the same spot every single day. It's gonna become a path. It's become worn in there. And that's the way I've always thought about it. So it's really important to be aware of your mind, your behaviors, and the sensations that you seek in order to feel comfortable. Comfort is not really the best thing. You can achieve comfort through growth, but you can't achieve growth through comfort. Now, does that make sense? No, it doesn't. That's because we're used to being entertained. We're used to being fed. We're used to being taken care of. We're used to getting our way, especially here in the West. So it is very important for us to ask ourselves, and me to ask myself, who am I? What am I? What am I doing? What am I going to create? Really, that's ultimately what any soul desires, is to manifest something greater than itself. Now, let me ask you something. Are you satisfied working the 9 to 5? Are you satisfied paying taxes? Are you satisfying being in the loop of all the things that are happening all the time, everywhere else in all the world, and being pressed upon about from the outside pressing in, right? The world, it's intense. There's a lot of shit going on out there. Food's running out, people wearing masks, people fighting over a vaccine, and people fighting over fucking everything these days. Pardon my language. I gotta read what Steven said over here. We have come to a time where everyone thinks their grass is greener on their other side of their fence. Yeah. Everyone just, the grass is greener. It's like, I get that, man. That's right. Like, okay. Like, if I could just get to this state of awareness, if I could just get to this place, if I could just get to this consciousness, and that, what that is that what we do is we condition ourselves. We pattern ourselves into a mechanistic, egoistic machine of self-preservation, and what the ego wants to do is be comfortable and secure. And the very lowest form of the ego, which we're starting to see these days, and this is not an idea, I stole this idea from the Academy of Ideas, and maybe he's got it from someone else. Ideology, very important these days, but the most degenerated form of ego does not want to be seen nor participate. The ego will hide and not want to be seen and sit in its rut. I'm speaking from experience here. When you have so much self-loathing that you don't want to do anything. You don't want to go anywhere. Not everyone's like that. Some people want to go and interact with other people, but when they do that, what are they doing? They're taking that other person's time and space because that ego is not secure in and of itself, so it needs someone else. A frog that lives in a well knows nothing of the ocean. This is true. When are we going to take the blinders off? So, ontology is the study of being and suchness. And pardon me, but I'm going to look up that term, the etymology of that term, and let you know because that's a very important word. On is being on. Now that's kind of weird. On means being. On is actually Greek for being. It's pretty strange. For me at least. So, this is a tricky subject. I opened up a can of worms here, even for myself tonight, but I want to ask people if they understand the banking system and our economy. It's a very complex thing, but really it's not. It's based off of debt, and there are the bankers who can press a button and make money. We have a fiat based system. Fiat means made. The bankers make the money. So there are people that make the money, and we all exchange this because we agree it has value. But what it really is it's a debt. What we're doing is we're paying a debt. It's a debt based thing. So we all understand what debt is, right? It's you owe. We owe. What you owe is what you have to pay. But the problem is that we are not in control of our own debts. We're born into debt, literally. We're born into debt. I was born in 1988. I'm 33 years old. Mr. fucking Joe Biden ran for president 33 years ago. We were in debt back then. As a nation, and I'm speaking as a native of Illinois who grew up in Colorado in this Four Corners area, Durango, Colorado. Sorry for the train. But the point is that we're never going to be able to pay off this debt because there's no way to regulate it. We cannot stop the government printing money. And the government prints money for any crisis that it sees, any perceived crisis. But the problem is that what government views as crisis and what the individual views as crisis are completely different. How many people think that they're going to be able to pay off their part of the national debt or have already paid off their part of the national debt? I guess that's the goal, right? I guess that is the goal, is to pay off your portion of the national debt. What is that per household? What is the national debt per household? Like, let's be realistic here. And how much money do y'all make per year after taxes, which the government takes from you to feed itself? Now you got to look at all these natural all these things in nature. Look at them in a natural sense, in a natural way. The government is unnatural, or it's not a sustainable entity, because it grows and grows and grows. And what grows and grows and grows? Cancer or viruses, if you believe in that. The national number for debt is nothing more than a number. It has no meaning or purpose behind it, but it does have psychological implications. That is a good point, though, Stephen. But the purpose behind the national debt is what sets the, I believe, is, I might be going out on a limb here. This is a good point, though, Stephen. I believe that the national debt is what sets our tax rates, because supposedly we have to pay that off. So the government is trying to pay off its own debt, and what it uses is the people to do that, because we pay the taxes, and the taxes I think our tax money goes towards the debt, doesn't it? I don't know, but what we got to do is we got to start holding people accountable for their actions. And it starts with the self. Let me tell you that. It starts with you and I hold for what we owe to not society, because it's a construct, but to the human race and to our family, most importantly, and then our town, and then our county, and then our state, and then our nation. But if the nation is not in line with you, and the fucking state, pardon my language, is not in line, and the town and all that, and hell, even your family might not be in line with you. But you got to take responsibility for yourself. But what I'm proposing is that we hold government accountable to its own fucked up ledger. How is it going to print money out of thin air and create debt? What is this debt for? What have we produced? What does government produce? Okay, realistically, what does government produce? Suffering and death. America's infrastructure is pretty fucked up. Pardon my French again. But if you look at what happened during the pandemic, if our infrastructure was so great, then why are we suffering after something like that? If America is really the land of the free and the home of the great, which that is the biggest lie that you've ever heard, just saying. But the only thing that can truly be free is your soul, your spirit, your heart. That's it. You can only be free on the inside. That's all I'm trying to promote. But what does America produce? America produces tyranny. America produces capitalism. A lot of people want to defend capitalism, but you tie in capitalism with our government, a constitutional democracy or democratic democracy, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Look at what objectively we've produced. I don't see more peace. I know that the military has helped people out. I know we've gone into countries and helped people out. But I also know that we've killed innocent people with drones and nuclear weapons, and we do experiments on our own people. But these words aren't too healing, and right now I feel like I'm preaching to the choir over here because cat in the litter box over there. Say it louder for the people in the back. Oh man, I didn't know if you could hear me or not. I'm on a microphone over here, so whoa shit! Don't do this to me. So I can hear myself very well with the microphone and the headphones. Sorry, this is live. I have a live stream going, and my number one fan is participating. But the government does not, and I feel like this system that we have doesn't work. And what's more, and this is something I'm going to try and say in my intros and every single podcast, is that the Pluto and Scorpio generation, the symbol of Pluto and Hades and Scorpio, all tie in with government, power, other people's money, death, poison, darkness. It's basically what happens right after the sun sets, if you think about it in the real world. Oh, you likes what I'm saying. That's good. That's good. Appreciate it. Speaking to your soul here. Hope to have more like you. And that's why symbology is so important. But the symbol is more or less of transmutation or transfiguration. Pluto is a very slow moving object in space. I can't really say that it's a real planet or a comet or a planetoid or whatever it is, but I know supposedly what the observable facts are is that it has about a cycle that's about 228 years or something like that. And when it's in Taurus and when it's in Scorpio, it's in its most intense, fast moving because it's elliptical and it moves through the part of the sky in Scorpio and Taurus the fastest because it's elliptical. It's not a perfect circle, it's an egg. So when it gets basically like the end of a slingshot, and one end is Scorpio, one is Taurus. So it means that theoretically Pluto is turning on an axis point or making a move basically, and these moves are very intense and dramatic. In Scorpio, they say they give it the rulership. And scorpion, poison, animal that hides under a rock in the darkness. You don't want to fuck with that. That's like the cops and that's like the government. We're like, what the fuck do they do? And you don't want to fuck with it. You can't even talk about taking care of the government because it's illegal, right? We can't talk about making an organization and overthrowing them and putting in a new government, which is why I promote self-governance and spirituality and individuality and self-growth. But there's that other sign, which is other people's money and power, and government is also what astrologers have assigned to the planet Pluto. So what I'm saying in a nutshell about Pluto and Scorpio is that it is the symbol of the death of in my hopes, of a government or governance or a way of transformation. Things are not going to change the way that they used to. Things aren't going to go at the same pace. So We're all feeling it and seeing it. The whole entire world was put to a stop because of the pandemic, the crown virus, and the government's reaction to that. But poison, we got to think about it. There's so much trauma that the American government has put out on the world. And you got to think about all the toxic waste that we put out into the ocean from petroleum and all the plastics and all the pharmaceuticals. And hell, even our culture is poisonous. The sexualization of children and the subjugation of the middle man, the working man. It's very sad what America has become. I'm not an anti-nationalist and I'm not anti-American, but the issue is that we've lost our compass. Our moral compass has all but eroded away. Stephen says the United States is an experiment in itself. We're the only country in the world through our history to be in a civilization ran by the people and not some sort of dictator. Oh, geez, this is a lot, Stephen. I'm going to have to interject. But the fathers were wise when setting up the government, but left unthought of holes. They set it up not for any one person can run the country, but didn't think what's happening now. People would persuade under a ruling first. They never thought of this much corruption and world reflections. Took me forever to type. Thank you, Stephen. Now, my argument to that is that all of the founders of this nation were Freemasons of a secret society. George Washington had hundreds of skeletons. No, I think it was one of those guys. One of the fathers, whole graveyard underneath their house. And actually, yes, for a fact of matter, the United States was founded at the New York Stock Exchange. Wall Street was where America was founded. The sole purpose of America was to instill this monetary monolith. You like that? Stephen says, I didn't say they were good people. I'm saying they did bad things with great intentions. Oh, that's a very good point. I know. We don't have to disagree or agree or argue. It's just the old saying is, though, is that where you're at now is a result of your best thinking and your best intentions. But it is very difficult to say what their intentions were because you got to look at the money system and extrapolating out where ledgers have came from and the monetary system and how old money is. I mean, we've traded in spices, we've traded in salts, we've traded in precious metals, we've traded in slaves, we've traded in animals. And now, guess what we trade in? Data. Yes, in the new currency. Next topic. What is my next topic? Well, I do want to make a point about Mr. Bill Gates. No, you're fine. So he says, no, you're fine, Stephen. I don't do these things. I don't write down Sometimes I take notes, but I haven't really put enough effort or energy in this. This is just kind of a free flow conversation that I have with myself and you or anyone else that comes on. These are just ideas that I'm trying to put out my ideologies and promote something well. But the intentions are the original Declaration of Independence, but even that is fucked up. And I've gone back into that, which is the original Declaration of Independence was on July 2nd. And America, the country, the fucking entity that we're in right now, the United States, wasn't even born on July 4th. It had to go over to England and the king had to sign it, and then it had to go over to the French king, and it was a proposal. It's a business proposal is what I'm saying. This is all about money. This is like we got to look at things in their essence, and capitalism is basically to extract the maximum amount of value out of something out of maybe it's let's just break down the word capital. Capital, it represents the head, the crown, up here, what goes on in your mind. And that is very important. It is the most important thing is what goes on in between your ears. The thoughts that you have are the actions that you dictate are the intentions, and all that manifests into what you create in reality. So in essence, there is some good to it, and I cannot argue that. In essence, capitalism is good, but what I always try to reiterate about the ebb and flow of the signs and symbols, which Confucius said, or Lao Tzu, one of these ancient Chinese philosophers from about 5,000 years ago, the world is not ruled by rules and laws, it's ruled by signs and symbols. And that's why I say, what is capitalism? The symbol of the capital is the head. What is the capital of the United States? Washington, D.C. But the economy is the driving force in America. It is to make money, is the American dream, is to succeed at what you do and what you like doing. But the problem is industrialization and hyper digitalization mixed with the ego. Man, I really wanted to say more tonight, and I don't have much more to say. And I thought I was going to be more concise. However, I do want to point out one really quick thing. One thing that's really bugged me and inspired me to even come on here and say anything tonight was the fact checkers talking about mother Hell's Gates, William Gates, Bill Gates, the Microsoft micro penis. Why would you name your company Microsoft? Really? I mean, sorry. It's not an original joke, but anyways, me as a fresh air breather over here has some questions to ask. The fact checkers fact checked Bill Gates when he was on a TED Talk in 2010 and said if we use vaccinations and birth control and healthcare, we can reduce population. So this is what the fact checkers specified was they said, no, he wasn't trying to reduce the population. Mr. Bill Gates is just trying to reduce the growth of populations. He's not out to kill anyone. He's just trying to make it to where more people aren't making more people. You know? So my argument is if vaccines are healthy, then why would it stop growth? I thought it's healthy to grow. I thought growth was healthy. Only so much room on the world Oh, that's a pretty relevant argument. Only so much room in the world, on the world. Only so much resources to go around, right? But what about us over here in America with all of our devices and all of our 400-pound obese people? All these obese people ending up in the hospital with COVID and all these comorbidities, dying, all this sickness and unhealth. What about the ocean? Why don't we populate the ocean? Why don't we do shit differently? Why do we have a throwaway culture? What's up with these single-use plastics? Single-use water bottles, single-use masks, single-use plastic food containers. We are literally in a fucking single-use throwaway reality. I don't believe that there's only so much room in the world. I think that it'll naturally correct itself, and maybe that's what's happening. Steven said, can only put so many people in a closet. Same with the world. Maybe that's really ultimately that's what I've said is happening is just, it's nature correcting itself. But what it looks like sometimes is that people are pushing these buttons and levers. It's like, I don't agree with depopulation. I don't agree with trying to slow population growth. I believe we could hold 50 billion people on this planet. No fucking problem. Go into the ocean. You think it'll keep growing at that point? You think we'll get much bigger than this? Obviously, we're not going to get much bigger than this. And again, this goes back to the symbol of Pluto and Scorpio, ebb and flow, the rise and fall. The Western world is Dunsky, especially America. Especially America. We're all the people, a lot of the millennials, and then the people that are like in their 40s and 50s, and then the baby boomers. Like the baby boomers to like now, we're all like in this collective mindset ideology of like America being this great arbiter of justice and peace and freedom and liberty for all. And we were a global empire. But our time has come. We have our waxing. We've had our waxing, and now we are waning. It's just, unfortunately, people don't want to accept that we are in decline. So Steven said, honestly, the plant, I think he said planet, more than likely didn't intend to have as many as we have now. Have to think Western medicine has only been around for less than 300 years. Yeah, he said planet. Um, so what I'm going to say, and this is going to sound crazy, but they people farm. They're farming people. The controllers or God, it's just what happens is like civilization grows and it ripens and then it dies. That's what happens. The planet peopled us. The planet made us. Nature made us. Like we became of that. Like we are peopled. The planet peoples. Like we're a natural thing. So whatever the air quote planet's intention is this. There is no other alternate reality or any other place that we could possibly be except here and now. This is exactly where we're supposed to be. So if the population is going to decline, that's what's supposed to happen. Or if the population is supposed to not grow as fast, that is what is supposed to happen. My argument is that an individual known as, and I can't even blame Bill Gates. If he's reducing the population for global health, the population growth, then let him do it. Maybe he's doing God's work. Maybe he's doing nature's work. It's not about money, it's about control. Yes, he's trying to control the growth of population. But the question is why? They think it's going to get out of control and we're going to destroy the world? That is a common idea that people subscribe to. That's an ideology that we've all been taught from our indoctrination in public schools. That's all we've always heard. Oh, there's people's humans. It's a great question that we're all asking. What is a sustainable limit? You know, what is the point of life? Isn't it to live and grow and die? It's a lot to take in. And I've had a lot of thoughts on my mind. And it's a hard, sad thought. It's a hard, sad truth. And that's why my name's Rue, and I'm here to bring the truth to you. That beautiful, ugly truth, which is all things are born, grow, culminate, and ripen, and then fall off the vine. And then the seeds of that fruit create new life. And supposedly that is the progression or evolution, if you will, of the natural order of things. That is a very good point, and I do myself. And I hope to attract more people like you to this podcast and have more interesting conversations. And that is, what is the point of all this? Mr. Steven says he asks himself that all day, every day. Not all day, but every day at least. And, you know, it's that question that really gives us, I think, some substantial progress in our psychology. Etymology is a very important subject. And again, if I did not tell you, etymology is finding the root of a word, where it came from, what language, what it means, how it evolved. And on my closing note tonight, I'd like to say that the definition of pan is all, and demos is people or tribes. We are definitely in a pandemic because all people, all nations, all tribes are being affected. Right now, we are under some kind of awareness of what's going on, and so many people are trying to find out, and so many people are trying to find answers. So many people have questions. And it's the calm before the storm, as I've heard many say. We have supply ships stopped in the Western Harbor. We have farmers burning crops and throwing away crops and euthanizing animals. We have hospitals being destroyed because of the vaccine mandate, because for some reason, some healthcare workers are opposed to getting a emergency use medicine treatment. We have growing levels of microplastics in our children, in our atmosphere. We have pharmaceuticals inundating and inculcating our water system and our bodies. Mind you, pharmakia literally means a poisoner or a sorcerer or a druggist, but pharmakia, pharmacy, pharmacist, pharmakia, those are all interconnected terms. And I would like to thank Odd TV for pointing that out, but it is a pretty crazy thing to look up the meaning of words. Just by the way, nice, niceus, the root word, the root meaning of nice means ignorant or stupid. So why they say nice guys finish last. Passion is to suffer. So what are you passionate about? What are you willing to suffer for? And that is the question I ask. Just for example, God. We believe God is real, but truly no one knows. Another just example would be I believe you're a good guy, but I don't know. It's human nature to ask questions and want to know. Well, I'm a good guy, but I've done some terrible, shitty things. I'll never forget them, and I'll only try to improve and go up from there. And in my older age, I'm only getting gooder. And that's all we can hope for the human species and the Western world and the consciousness that we all share, because we are in a worldwide consciousness now. With the internet, it's created a worldwide consciousness, a web of information and ideas and opinions and entertainment. Do we know if God's really exists? Do you know if I'm really good, Stephen? I have good intentions. I've done some fucked up shit. I'm not going to lie. I'm not perfect. But it was good coming on tonight. I have got to go. I've been getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and working 10-hour days, driving over an hour both ways. So that's what, 12 hours a day? I'm just a construction worker, pondering his existence. We've all done fucked up shit, man. Hey, I'm not beating myself up over it anymore. I'm just letting people know that I'm not a perfect little angel, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time. I'm tired as fuck. Pardon my language. It'll be better next time. I'll speak more in depth about ontology, etymology, and all other things. But for now, give it a like, give it a share, give it a dislike, comment what you think if you've gotten this far. Help grow the channel. I don't ask for much. I don't ever ask for people to subscribe or share. I'm on YouTube, Plutonian Podcast. I'm on Twitter at ThyRoot, Facebook, Pluto in Scorpio Official. Good night, Stephen. Good night, y'all. God bless.